I'm Sarah Hashim-Waris from the Los Angeles Times newsroom. 46-year-old Michael Rodney Kane was arrested in a motel room near Joshua Tree on suspicion of stabbing his estranged wife to death in the middle of a residential neighborhood in West Hills. Police say 43-year-old Ann Kane was chased down and stabbed multiple times by her estranged husband, against whom she had filed a temporary restraining order and had planned to divorce. Joining me now are Times staff writers Merl and Andrew Blankstein to discuss the details. Gene, let's start with you. You obtained the divorce filing and the request for the restraining order. What did you find?
Yes, in that divorce file record was a declaration that Michelle Kane had filed in early April when she sought first a temporary restraining order, and then she was going for a more fuller permanent restraining order, and the hearing was scheduled for June 28th on that. And in her declaration, she laid out many incidents of violence and threats and kind of painted a portrait of a man who seemed to be becoming more and more unhinged. And she was clearly in fear of her life and worried about her two young children.
And drug use and alcoholism.
Yes, she said she believed he was using drugs and abusing alcohol, that he had had some mental health issues and had stopped seeing his psychiatrist and stopped taking his medication. And as the months wore on, became more and more erratic. She said he had always been subject to mood swings and kind of erratic behavior, but it got much, much worse after she filed for divorce in December. And as the time for the restraining order hearing grew nearer, she became more and more frightened.
I see. Now, Andrew, tell me about the police interaction leading up to Michael's arrest.
Well, the day before the slaying on Saturday, according to Los Angeles police, Michelle Kane went to the Topanga area station to report that the restraining order that had been taken out, the temporary restraining order, had been violated. 5 hours later, the LA police officers are called to her residence where there's a report of windows being smashed out. At that point, police look for a suspect. They interview neighbors, they interview Michelle Kane, but no one is found. Then the next morning, while she's staying at a friend's, is when the killing takes place. And it's grisly. You have first Michelle Kane's hiding in a bathroom of the friend's house with their two children. Then she leaves the home, runs down the street, and is then ultimately stabbed to death, allegedly at the hands of her husband, according to police.
Now, the big piece of this, the big thing that commenters who are, writing down comments on the article that you guys recently wrote, they're all asking, could police have done more to sort of prevent this tragedy? What do you think?
Sure, and it's a question that comes up every time that there's a situation like this. We covered a case in 2009 in the Wilshire area where a woman, her boyfriend had been increasingly menacing her, according to police, and then ultimately gets in through a bathroom window after climbing onto the roof. There were two police officers that were out in front of that residence that evening, and while there was a report afterwards that said ultimately that the officers involved should have searched the apartment to make sure nothing was out of place, what police say is, like, when somebody's dead set on trying to hurt or kill somebody, and they advised her to either get in a situation where she sought shelter away from the home, which she ultimately did, or in a place that the person who's stalking, harassing them wouldn't think of. Ultimately, he was able to find her and, according to police, kill her. And this is gonna, they said, the folks at the LAPD, they did everything that they could, and there's certain limits to the law. You can't take people into protective custody. At some point, you can give people advice, but it has its limits.
A tragic story nonetheless. Thank you both for your insights. You can get more on this story on the LA Now blog and at latimes.com. And for the latest updates on the story and other headlines, check out @LA Times.